Assalamu alaikum students. So today we will learn about the white matter of the spinal cord or the tracts of the spinal cord. Now a tract may be defined as a collection of nerve fibers having the same origin, course and termination. Tracts may be, as you know, there may be ascending or descending. Now this is the transverse section of the spinal cord. In each half of the cord, the grey matter is divisible into a larger ventral mass and the anterior grey column you can see here. You can see here the larger anterior mass. This is known as anterior grey column, and a narrower elongated posterior grey column. In some parts of the spinal cord, a small lateral projection, here you can see, is seen between the ventral and the dorsal grey columns. This is the lateral grey column. So this one is the lateral horn or lateral grey column. The grey matter of the right and left half of the spinal cord is connected across the midline by the grey commissure, which is traversed by the central canal. The lower end of central canal expands to form the terminal ventricle, which lies in the conus medullaris region. Now the cavity within the spinal cord continues for a short distance into the filum terminale. The central canal of the spinal cord contains the cerebrospinal fluid and it is lined by ependyma. Now the white matter of the spinal cord is divided into right and left halves in front by a deep anterior median fissure and behind by the posterior median sulcus. In each half of this cord, the white matter medial to the dorsal grey column, here you can see this is the dorsal grey column, and white matter medial to the dorsal grey column is known as posterior funiculus. It forms the posterior funiculus or posterior white column. The white matter medial and ventral to the anterior grey column, it forms the anterior funiculus or anterior white column, while the white matter lateral to the anterior and posterior grey column, this area, it forms the lateral funiculus or lateral white column. The white matter of right and left halves of the spinal cord is continuous across the midline through the ventral white commissure, which lies anterior to the grey commissure. Here you can see some myelinated fibers running transversely in the grey commissure posterior to the central canal are referred to as dorsal white commissure. Now the white matter of the spinal cord, it is a collection of nerve fibers within the central nervous system that connects the two masses of the grey matter, and these are called as tracts. A tract may be defined as collection of nerve fibers having the same origin, the course and the termination. Tracts may be ascending or descending. They are usually named after the masses of grey matter connected by them. Thus a tract beginning in the cerebral cortex and descending to the spinal cord is known as corticospinal tract, while a tract ascending from the spinal cord to the thalamus is known as spinothalamic tract. Now tracts are sometimes referred to as fasciculi, bundles or lemnisci. Fasciculi means bundle shaped or lemnisci means ribbon shaped. The major tracts passing through the spinal cord and brain stem are the ascending and the descending tracts. So in case of ascending tracts, there are lateral spinothalamic tract, anterior spinothalamic tract, fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus, dorsal spinocerebellar tract, ventral spinocerebellar tract, spino-olivary tract, spinotectal tract, and spinoreticular tract. And in terms of descending tracts, the lateral corticospinal tracts, rubrospinal tract, medullary reticulospinal tract, lateral vestibulospinal tract, pontine reticulospinal tract, tectospinal tract, and anterior corticospinal tracts. So these are the descending tracts which are going from the higher centers towards the spinal cord. Now, general information from the peripheral sensory endings is conducted through the nervous system by a series of neurons. In its simplest form, the ascending pathways to consciousness consists of three neurons. The first order neuron has its cell bodies in the posterior root ganglia of the spinal nerve. A peripheral process connects with the sensory receptor ending, whereas the central process enters the spinal cord through the posterior root to synapse on the second order neurons. The second order neurons give rise to the axons that decursate, crosses to the opposite side and ascend to the higher level of the central nervous system, where it synapses with the third order neuron. Now these third order neurons, they lie in the thalamus and give rise to projection fibers that passes to a sensory region of the cerebral cortex. Now this three neuron chain is the most common arrangement. By some afferent pathways use more or fewer neurons. Now, many of the neurons in the ascending pathway branch and give a major input to the reticular formation, which in turn activates the cerebral cortex, maintaining wakefulness. Other branches pass to the motor neurons and participate in the muscular reflex activity. Now, functions of the ascending tracts: painful and thermal sensations ascend in the lateral spinothalamic tract. Light, crude touch and pressure ascend in the anterior spinothalamic tract. Discriminative touch, that is the ability to localize accurately the area of the body touched and also to be aware that two points are touched simultaneously even though they are close together. This is the 2-point discrimination, ascends in the posterior white column. Also ascending in the posterior white column is information from muscles and joints pertaining to movement and position of different parts of the body. This is known as proprioception. In addition, vibratory sensations ascend in the posterior white column. Unconscious information from muscle, joint and the skin and subcutaneous tissue reaches the cerebellum by the way of anterior and posterior spinocerebellar tracts and by the cuneo-cerebellar tracts. Now, pain, thermal and tactile information is passed to the superior colliculus of the midbrain through the spinotectal tract for the purpose of spino-visual reflexes. The spino-reticular tract provides a pathway from the muscle, joints and skin to the reticular formation, while the spino-olivary tract provides an indirect pathway for further afferent information to reach the cerebellum. So first of all, we will do the lateral spinothalamic tract, that is the pain and temperature pathways. Now the lateral spinothalamic tracts, the pain and thermal receptors, they carry the pain and thermal impulses from the free nerve endings and thermal receptors in the skin and other tissues. The pain impulses are transmitted to the spinal cord in the fast conducting delta type A fibers and slow conducting type C fibers. The axons entering the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion proceed to the, here you can see their axons from the peripheral receptors are entering into the posterior root ganglion. This is the peripheral axon of the neurons in the posterior root ganglion, and they divide and they enter into the spinal cord. Now this is the first order neuron of the lateral spinothalamic tract. Now the central fibers of these neurons enter the spinal cord, and they divide into ascending and descending branches. These branches travel for a distance of 1 to 2 segments of the spinal cord and form the posterolateral tract of Lejour. These fibers of first order neuron terminate by synapsing with cells in the posterior gray column, including cells in the substantia gelatinosa. Now substance P peptide is thought to be neurotransmitter at these synapses. Now axons of the second order neuron now crosses obliquely to the opposite side. Here you can see crossing obliquely in the opposite side in the anterior gray commissure and white commissure within one spinal segment of the cord, ascending in contralateral white column. As now these fibers, they ascend in contralateral columns as white lateral spinothalamic tract. The lateral spinothalamic tract lies the lateral spinothalamic tract as the lateral spinothalamic tract ascends through the medulla oblongata. It lies near the lateral surface and between the olivary nucleus and the nucleus of the spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. It is now accompanied by the other tracts, which are the anterior spinothalamic tract and the spinotectal tract. Together they form the spinal lemniscus. Now this spinal lemniscus ascends through the pons and the midbrain, and then the axons of these second order neurons, they terminate by synapsing with the third order neurons in the ventral posterolateral nucleus of thalamus. It is believed that here crude pain and temperature sensations are appreciated and emotional reactions are initiated. The axons of the third order neuron in the ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus now pass through the posterior limb of the internal capsule and the corona radiata to reach the somaesthetic area in the post-central gyrus. So this is the post-central gyrus of the cerebral cortex, and fibers from thalamus, they are synapsing in these neurons. Now the contralateral half of the body is represented as inverted, with the hand and mouth situated inferiorly and the legs situated superiorly, and with the foot and anogenital region on the medial surface of the hemisphere. From here the information is transmitted to other regions of the cerebral cortex to be used by motor areas and the parietal association area. The role of cerebral cortex in interpreting the quality of sensory information. The role of cerebral cortex is to interpret the quality of the sensory information at the level of consciousness. Now the anterior spinothalamic tract, the axons enter the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion and proceed to the tip of the posterior gray column. You can see here axons are entering into the posterior gray column here, where they divide into ascending and descending branches. These branches travel for a distance of 1 or 2 segments of the spinal cord, contributing to the posterolateral tract of Lejour. It is believed that these fibers of first order neuron terminate by synapsing with cells in the substantia gelatinosa group in the posterior gray column. The axons of the second order neuron now cross very obliquely to the opposite side. You can see here they are crossing, and in the anterior gray and white commissure within several spinal segments, and ascend to in the opposite anterolateral white column as the anterior spinothalamic tract. As the anterior spinothalamic tract ascends through the spinal cord, New fibers are added to the medial aspect of the tract. Thus, the upper cervical segments of the cord, the sacral fibers, are lying most laterally, as in the lateral spinothalamic tract, as I have told you in the lateral spinothalamic tract. The sacral fibers are mostly lateral, and the cervical segments are mostly medial. Now you have to tell me in your assignment that what is the significance of this arrangement of fibers. As the anterior spinothalamic tract ascends through the medulla oblongata, it accompanies the lateral spinothalamic tract and the spinotectal tract, all of which form the spinal lemniscus. So along with the lateral spinothalamic tract and the tectospinal tract, it forms the spinal lemniscus in the medulla oblongata. The spinal lemniscus continues to ascend through the posterior part of the pons and the tegmentum of the midbrain. The fibers of the anterior spinothalamic tract terminate by synapsing with the third order neuron in the ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. Here, ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. Crude awareness of touch and pressure is believed to be appreciated here. The axons of the third order neuron in the ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus passes through the posterior limb of the internal capsule and the corona radiata to reach the cerebral cortex. Somastatic area in the postcentral gyrus of the cerebral cortex. The contralateral half of body is represented invertedly with the hand and mouth situated inferiorly as described previously. The conscious appreciation of touch and pressure depends on activity of cerebral cortex. The sensations can only be crudely localized and very little discrimination of intensity is possible here. Now the posterior and interior spinocerebellar tracts. Now the posterior spinocerebellar fibers receive muscle joint information from the muscle spindles, tendon organs, and joint receptors of the trunk and lower limb. So from area of the muscles and tendon organs and joint receptors of the trunk and lower limb, they are perceived by the posterior spinocerebellar fibers. This information concerning tension of muscle tendons and movements of muscle and joint is used by the cerebellum in the coordination of limb movements and the maintenance of posture. Now the axons, the posterior spinocerebellar tract, first we will do the posterior spinocerebellar tract. Their axons enter the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion, and they have the first order neurons in the posterior root ganglion. Their central process enter the spinal cord and gray column and terminate by synapsing on the second order neurons at the base of the posterior gray column. These neurons are known collectively as nucleus dorsalis. Now the axons of second order neuron enter the posterolateral part of the lateral white column. Here you can see they are entering the posterolateral part of the lateral white column on the same side and ascend as the posterior spinocerebellar tract to the medulla oblongata. Now from here the tract joins the inferior cerebellar peduncle and terminates in the cerebellar cortex. Now you know that the nucleus dorsalis, it lies only, it extends from the 8th cervical segment caudally to the 3rd or 4th lumbar segment. Now the axons entering the spinal cord from the posterior roots of the lower lumbar and sacral segments, they ascend in the posterior white column until they reach the 3rd or 4th lumbar segment, where they enter the nucleus dorsalis. Now the anterior spinocerebellar tract, the axons entering the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion, you can see here the posterior root ganglion, axons are entering. The first order neurons are lying in the posterior root ganglion. Their central fibers are entering into the spinal cord through the into the posterior gray column in the nucleus dorsalis at the base of posterior gray column. The majority of axons of second order neuron, they cross to the opposite side and ascend as anterior spinocerebellar tract in the contralateral white column. The minority of axons ascend as anterior spinocerebellar tract in the lateral white column of the same side, although not shown here, but some of the fibers, they also ascend on the same side. The fibers having ascend through the medulla oblongata and pons enter the cerebellum through the superior cerebellar peduncle. So here they are entering into the cerebellum through the superior cerebellar peduncle and terminate in the cerebellar cortex. Now these fibers that cross over to the opposite side of the spinal cord cross back within the cerebellum. The anterior spinocerebellar tract conveys muscle joint information from the muscle spindles, tendon organs and joint receptors of the trunk and upper and lower limbs. Now it is believed that the cerebellum receives information from the skin and superficial fascia by this tract. Now one tract that is known as cuneo-cerebellar tract, these fibers they originate in the nucleus cuneatus and enter the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle of the same side. You can see here the first order neurons are in the posterior the dorsal root ganglion, and they enter into the posterior gray column and then they do not synapse and ascend to the accessory cuneate nucleus, and then from here they enter the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle of the same side, and these fibers are known as posterior external arcuate fibers, and their function is to convey information of muscle joint sense to the cerebellum. Now the spinotectal tract, the axons enter the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion and travel to the posterior gray matter, where they synapse on the unknown second order neurons. The axons of second order neurons cross the median plane and ascend as spinotectal tract in the anterolateral white column, lying close to this blue one, lying close to the lateral spinothalamic tract. After passing through medulla oblongata and pons, they terminate by synapsing with neurons in the superior colliculus of the midbrain. So they end in the superior colliculus of the midbrain. This pathway provides afferent information for spino-visual reflexes and brings about movements of eyes and head towards the source of stimulation. Now the spino-reticular tract, the axons enter the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion and terminate on the unknown second order neuron. You can see here the spino-reticular, this one is the spino-reticular, and they are entering through the posterior root and going into the posterior gray column on unknown neurons, second order. Axons from these second order neurons ascend in the spinal cord as the spino-reticular tract in the lateral white column mixed with the lateral spinothalamic tract. So they ascend in the lateral white column to the medulla oblongata, to the reticular nuclei in the midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. The spino-reticular tract provides an afferent pathway from the reticular formation, which plays an important role in influencing levels of consciousness. Spino-olivary tract, the axons enter the spinal cord from the posterior root ganglion, terminate on unknown second order neurons in the posterior gray column. The axons from the second order neurons crosses the midline, ascend as spino-olivary tract in the white matter at the junction of anterior and lateral columns. The axons end by synapsing on the third order neurons in the inferior olivary nucleus of the medulla oblongata. Now they end in the medulla oblongata. Now axons of the third order neurons crosses the midline and enter the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Now spino-olivary tract conveys information to the cerebellum from the cutaneous and proprioceptive organs. The posterior white column. These tract occupies the posterior funiculus of the spinal cord and are therefore often referred to as posterior column tracts. They are unique in that they are formed predominantly by central process of the neurons located in the dorsal nerve root ganglion. What do you mean by this? The axons in the dorsal root ganglion, their peripheral process go to the receptors, and from here the peripheral process conveys impulses into the neurons of the dorsal root ganglion. So these are the first order neurons in this pathway. Their central process enters the spinal cord through the posterior root and ascend in the posterior white column of the same side. So this tract is unique in that they are formed predominantly by central process of neurons located in the dorsal nerve root. The fibers derived from the lowest ganglia are situated most medially, while those from the highest ganglia are most lateral. The fasciculus gracilis, which lies medially, and fasciculus cuneatus lies laterally. The fasciculus gracilis consists of fibers from the coccygeal, sacral and lumbar and lower thoracic ganglia, while the fasciculus cuneatus consists of fibers from upper thoracic and cervical ganglia. Now these fibers, they go upward as far as the medulla oblongata, and here these fibers, they terminate by synapsing with neurons in the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. Now the fibers from both the nuclei in the medulla oblongata, they cross to the opposite side and ascend in a tract known as medial lemniscus, which goes to the thalamus, and in the thalamus lies the third order neurons. Axons of the third order neurons then pass into the posterior limb of the internal capsule, then the optic radiation towards the cerebral cortex, post-central gyrus of the cerebral cortex. Now this tract conveys the sensation of touch, proprioception, conscious proprioception, and 2-point discrimination and vibration sense.